Good morning and welcome to another beautiful day. This is Atlantic Television Network, and the program as usual at this time on the network is Atlantic Blowout. And Atlantic Blowout is a syndicated live program of the network that gets to feature chit-chats and conversations on special interest topics, news events and stories through correspondence reports, expert opinion, stakeholders analysis. And today we will be taking a story straight out of River State, where we have reports that the police has arrested 4 people over the disappearance of the NYC member. If you have been following the story, you realize that a member of the National Youth Service Corps was actually missing, right? He was reportedly missing. Where we have Iringe Koko, she has announced that 4 people have been arrested towards this particular case. We're following it up to find out what gets to happen, and our hearts go out to his family members, wonder how they're feeling now. And then from Delta State, monarchs urge federal government to repair roads. And on this particular story, they're saying repair the federal roads, and they're talking to state governors or their state government also to repair the state roads. But on a previous report, we find out that the Delta State government has complained that the federal government has not allowed them to repair some of these federal roads that are bad. In their words, the federal government has told them that these roads have been contracted already. So what happens? The contractors are not doing the job, so do we keep suffering with the effects of this particular bad roads? You know how it can be when the road is bad, especially when it's a federal road, a major road. And then we'll take a story from the FCT, where we have reports that Wike declares war against street begging. I don't know if you have ever encountered some of these people who get to harass you on the road because they are begging for money, especially the children. When they get to harass you on the road, sometimes they'll hold you and you can't even let go. But then Wike has made a statement concerning that one. We'll see how that one flies. Definitely will bring you updates to that particular story as it unfolds. And then we have this interesting story talking about fuel, petrol. On the presidency now, and Tinubu's statement that petrol now is 1,000 naira per litre. So you either buy petrol at 1,000 naira per litre or the CNG gas at 200 naira thereabouts. Yeah, so you choose. He was talking to commercial drivers and drivers in general to get to choose. Either you buy petrol at 1,000, but we're imagining or we're still wondering which of the states sell at 1,000 naira. That's definitely not the price in every state, because last I checked and tried to find out yesterday, realized that here in River State we have fuel stations that sell petrol at 1,300, 1,200, depending on where you are buying from. But it's still on the high side. A lot of people never thought that a day will come when we'll buy petrol at over 1,000 naira per litre. Well, on LPG now, federal government bans export amidst price surge. LPG, that is the cooking gas. The federal government has banned the export of the cooking gas amidst the price surge, and that is supposed to bring down the price. We'll find out how that story gets to unfold. On governance, Obasanjo has said that regionalism is the root cause of Nigeria's problem. It doesn't matter where a man comes from. The important thing is if he can do the job. That's what we should be looking at. That's what Obasanjo is saying. But then we'll get to find out what Nigerians think about this one, because there'll definitely be updates on this story. All right, that's a package. That's what we have for you today. Those are the stories we'll be taking today. We'll bring you more details after the break. We'll introduce our guests and delve to the details of these stories. My name is Enidoye Jackson. Please stay with us.
The people of Maiduguri need your help. A catastrophic flood has engulfed the city, leaving over 1 million residents stranded and fighting for survival. Entire communities are submerged, with people trapped inside homes and on rooftops cut off from food, clean drinking water and essential supplies. Health experts are warning of a potential outbreak of deadly diseases, and medical facilities are out of commission. The situation is dire. Helicopters, boats and high-riding trucks capable of navigating the treacherous, waterlogged areas are urgently required to reach the countless men, women and children still awaiting rescue. The Nigerian media is issuing a desperate plea to the government, humanitarian organizations, international actors, and citizens across the nation. Step in now, before it's too late. For more information on how you can help, contact Professor Usman A. Tar, the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Borno State, on 0809-233-3955. Every second counts.
This is powered by Atlantic Television Network.
From the lands across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
it's good to know you are still with us. Thank you so much for standing by. If you're just joining us, welcome. I told you after the break we'll introduce our guest. I have with me in the studio my amiable guest, great man, Badom. He's a public affairs analyst, a pastor, amongst many other things. Good morning, great man.
Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Jackson. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, welcome. Let's delve straight to the stories. We're taking our first story from River State. And it's one of the topics that we have been discussing for some time when we talk about National Youth Service. We have reports that the River State Police Command has detained 4 individuals linked to the mysterious disappointment or disappearance of a National Youth Service corps member, Yahaya Farouk. Farouk was serving at Mixed Secondary School in Ikuru Town and Doni local government area. He went missing on October 14 after reporting for a shift at LDM Chinese Mining Company where he worked part-time. Please listen to this. The state police spokesperson, SP Grace Ngokoko, has confirmed the arrest and stated that the suspects have been transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for a thorough investigation. The incident has sparked public concern, with various groups calling for a comprehensive probe into Farouk's whereabouts. Now, the Muslim Student Society of Nigeria highlighted the troubling circumstances, noting that Farouk signed in for his shift. He signed in for his shift at LDM, but never signed out. Adding to the mystery, the company later returned his bag and phone to his primary assignment location, which raised further questions about his disappearance. The authorities are currently working to unravel the circumstances surrounding the case, with investigations ongoing to ensure Farouk's safe return. This is disturbing. I can imagine how worried his colleagues and friends and family would be at this time, especially seeing that his bag, phones and items were returned to his place of primary assignment by the company where he does his part-time, and that's where reports said he signed in but never signed out.
That's such a sad story. To begin with this morning, it's really sad. There's no information that Farouk is dead, so we are not mourning Farouk, but we are expressing our sadness that such a thing is still happening in times like this, in a time where we have a lot of technological advancement and all in our the history of our country. I think that's one very important thing that needs to go out to people that walk into organizations and out of organizations. It is a very clear indication and probably an admonition that you should always sign in and out. You know, sometimes people trivialize those sign in and sign out books, and they say it doesn't matter, you just drive in and drive out. Information or news like this will let you know that those things that you'd consider petty or not important are actually very important, and they do matter. And this is now helping the security agencies to trace the whereabouts of Farouk. This, you mentioned the Chinese company, and if I look at the news, I'll remember clearly, this is not the first time we're having incidents of Nigerians with Chinese companies.
Really?
Yes, there were times, I think during the COVID or a time like that, when we're told that a Chinese company, not in River State, locked up their Nigerian staff from going on any break, proceeding on any break. They were working all through the period. There were times when we were told that there was a news like that in either Ogun State or so. So,
so you think it's a thing with both countries?
I wouldn't say a thing with both countries. I won't want to be too fast to jump in to say that, but I want to say that this is not the first time we're having an issue that has to do with a Chinese company or something like that. So I want to encourage the security agencies to do their best to ensure that we trace the whereabouts of Farouk, get the perpetrators of this to book. Even if Farouk is not found dead, we pray he's alive. Whether he's alive or not, people should be punished for this kind of action. It's uncalled for. Also stating the fact that you had to return his belongings
to his PPA.
That means you know where Farouk is. In fact, the people who received the belongings of Farouk at the PPA should have apprehended that person who brought those belongings, because for you to know that Farouk is missing for days and then suddenly you are coming up to bring his belongings, where did you get these belongings from? Your records clearly state that Farouk came in but never left. So that's really it's a really dicey story, and all we can do at this point is not to make the news, not to lift the tension. Would only encourage the security agencies to press on with their
but
duties.
It's also very important that we talk about core member safety in the places where they are posted. Most times when we talk about stories like this, I like to pick out what we can use going forward, what can be beneficial going forward. I know that security is primary for every citizen and resident of Nigeria, but let's look at core members, people who are posted to different states. We've had these conversations over and over again, but let's look at their safety in the places where they are posted.
Yeah, I think, I can't remember a name per se, and I wouldn't want to mention any name on air, but I remember that one of those days I went for a conference and there was an exhibition, and I saw an exhibitor presenting an app, a mobile app that talks about safety. And when the person was making that presentation, I said, oh, you should get across to the security agencies. They should love this. This should be a laudable invention or innovation. And the person clearly told me, do you think we've not been there? We've been there, and they clearly rejected it.
What was the reason he mentioned?
Okay, unofficially, let me say the reason he mentioned was that because this will save a lot of crime, some people do not want this. Because the truth, I always say, when somebody is crying, somebody is laughing, somebody always benefits from a good or a bad that goes on in the society. So some people are benefiting from crime. You need to know, people sponsor wars. People sit down and people sponsor viruses so that they can cash out. They can produce vaccines.
I know about people sponsoring wars. Exactly. I know about talks in Nigeria about the security. Some people are benefiting from it and all of that. But people sponsoring virus?
People do that. They sponsor a virus. It goes around the world, and your vaccine.
That's the definition
there was a propaganda
of man's inhumanity to man.
But that is man for you. There was a propaganda that ran throughout the entire COVID region, the entire COVID time. You remember even people like Donald Trump calling COVID the Chinese virus. He kept saying it. He wasn't mincing words. He kept saying it. And that was an allegation that was never looked into. There is a possibility that he was wrong, and there is also a possibility that it was correct.
Right.
So people propagate all these things just for their financial gains. And so he told me that the app had been taken to these security agencies, but they were turned down. And I was like, why would an app like this be turned down? This app is one that allows people to find their way wherever they are lost. It's an app that alerts the security agency on anybody's troubled state, more like the 911 thing and all. And this was supposed to be a seamless one. So imagine if Farouk had access to this app and the security agencies may have adopted this as part of their services. Then it would have been easier to find Farouk.
Well, aside the fact that you feel, or he said, that people might be benefiting from it and that's why they're not accepted. Have you noticed that a lot of times when people come up with these innovations and then they approach government agencies with it, some of them have complained that they've not gotten that reception?
Definitely.
Why do you think that is the case? Aside anything that talks about somebody benefiting from the negativities that are happening.
That is the first thought. The second thought is that a lot of Nigerian leaders have not been able to think out of the box. I was reading about the Japanese leadership, and I saw something that was very fascinating. What was that? They said, do you know why it feels like we are smarter? It's not that we are smarter than the rest of the world. The Japanese people were saying, what we do is that when we want to choose our leadership, we choose the smart one to be the leader, and the other foolish ones follow the leadership because the leadership is smart. But when other third world countries want to choose their leadership, they keep the smart ones aside and choose the foolish ones. And then the foolish ones will lead us into the ditch. This was a Japanese quote, like a meme that I saw online. And I began to think about it. It resonated with what we are going through in the country. Because when you go through the credentials and the portfolio of all the people that came out on the presidential election, you see that we had a lot of smart people on that team. But Nigerians will still elect the people who cannot move them forward, the people who are going to be there for their selfish gains and interests, people who you can see that their track records are saying this person did this person did that. Somebody who you can clearly see has a negative track record, you still put him into office thinking you're going to change him in office. Because it's amazing how Nigerians behave. Somebody who you can see that this person's track record is not clean. There are a lot of complaints, whether they have been proven or not. Nigerians should be able to say, oh, this person, there is too much foul news around you. Let us prove it. Let us be sure that you are clean. Why is it that there's so much negativity around you?
A lot of people are always concerned about what they can benefit.
That is where we began from. I told you, benefits. It always goes to benefit. And at the end of the day, what do Nigerians benefit from these people? A bag of rice that cannot carry you up for 4 years? Because they give you one bag of rice, one this, one that, and that's the end of the whole thing from the campaign. They've paid you during the campaign, so you do not have any rights to question governance.
Maybe during the campaign, they just give them tips, and then they fight.
They fight. They kill their brothers. Yes. I've seen families where they are fighting each other to death because of politics. I've seen a family. This happens. It's always on the news. There was one that was on the news for a father that disowned the son because they belong to different political parties. So people go the extra mile for nothing. At the end of the day, they are not remembered. At the end of the day, they don't even gain anything. So Nigerians know how to compromise today's process
or tomorrow's enjoyment for today's temporary.
The process that we should have gone through today, we compromise it for a temporary pleasure, and then we end up suffering long term. And that's what is going on. So if we have smart people on these teams, if we have smart people in leadership, when innovation comes, it hits. They're like, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. We
keep hearing these cases. Students come up with ideas, invent things, and then you see that that's where it ends.
It ends there.
But then we see cases where some reality TV shows that people think do not really benefit the society, and you see these winners coming out, and you see their governors calling them in and then giving them huge sums and all of that. So it looks like what we are actually promoting is different from what the society really needs. But let's look at the next story that is coming straight out of Delta State. Traditional rulers in Delta State have called on the federal government to urgently fix the deteriorating federal roads, describing them as hazardous for motorists. In a communique that was issued after a meeting in Asaba, the Delta State Traditional Rulers Council, led by the first Vice Chairman, Pereluk Kalanama Ville, expressed concern over roads such as Wari, Sapele Benin, Abo, Abraka, Oku, and the East West Road. The monarchs also urged the state governments to repair state roads, warned residents of flood-prone areas to relocate, and called for improved security after a recent incident in Agao. Additionally, they emphasized the need for intensified anti-drug efforts by NDLEA and encouraged youth participation in military recruitment exercises. They have mentioned a lot of things. Let's see how we can address these things one after the other. Let's start from what they mentioned about the roads now. Starting with the federal roads. They called on the federal government to come repair federal roads. Recently, we heard reports from Delta State where the Delta State government, like I said for the break, complained about the federal government not allowing them repair federal roads, and with the excuse that those roads have already been contracted. But now they have the issue of the contractors probably not doing their jobs. And they are the residents of these areas. They are the ones suffering the effect of the bad roads. And yet they're not allowed to repair the roads. I'd like to get your thoughts on this one.
It's sad again. It's sad again to see we have to deal with these issues almost on a daily basis. You know, when it comes to road construction and repair, it saddens me personally because I lost a friend of mine to bad road. I had this friend of mine who got involved in an accident in the Keke Napep. A trailer fell on the Keke Napep and her two legs were cut off and she couldn't survive it. Her son, who was also in the Keke Napep with her, she managed to push him out of the Keke Napep and he fell, but one leg was amputated. So the young man is living with 1.5 leg. So road construction issues are so painful to me when I hear them. It's so sad. It's so sad because, you know, why I say it's so sad is that I'm happy that monarchs are the one making this call. No politician ever campaigns in any area without visiting the monarchs. These same politicians come to you every year. The APC, look, the APC structure has been there for years. It's not a new structure, whether the presidential candidate changed or not. The PDP structure has been there for years. It's not a new structure. If you go to politicians, they'll tell you their history. They said they've been here for 28 years. Somebody has been in power for 32 years. Somebody has been in power since inception of democracy till now. So you realize that these structures have been in place. They go to monarchs when they want to go get traditional spiritual blessings, and these monarchs are going to bless them as a way of being apolitical or non-partisan. So they receive both the APC and the PDP. If the monarchs understand that these same games have been going on for these number of years, then why do you still open your doors to them and come back crying? Because they do not come to you empty-handed. They come to you bearing gifts. You can't come to a king empty-handed. You come to a king, you appeal to him, you praise him, you eulogize him, and you get his ego high, and then he begins to bless you. So the monarchs are the same people that entertain the politicians. And at the end of the day, we are the same people crying about this thing. If the next time they come to your palace, you close your doors to them, tell them you are the same old people that have always, if you want to get things right this time, go and do the right things before we open our doors to you. Then we'll know that people are becoming serious. You know, it's just like when you join people to go and steal at night. And then when you are done stealing, you come in the morning to come and talk up against stealing. They just look, they sit somewhere and they are laughing at you because they know that tonight we'll still meet again. So it's like, now it's the same people talking at the end of the day. Because if you are ready to make things right, then you must make bold statements. And bold statements come with you denouncing or disagreeing totally with the norm.
Well, you know that when these candidates go to meet these monarchs, they go with promises. They always come with promises.
Yeah.
Especially beautiful manifestos.
And the promises are not new.
Amazing manifestos. So it's not like they're coming to meet these monarchs and they're agreeing that they're not going to do anything. They make promises and tell them, oh, we're going to do this for you, we're going to do that for you. So how do you still blame the monarchs here?
Are not new. That's why I said these promises are not new. If you go through the history of Nigerian politics, the East-West Road has been on the manifesto of every president. Every president has campaigned with the East-West Road. That's even the Delta region. The region that spans through River State. That spans through River State, cutting through the Ogoni region down to the Akwa Ibom Uyo Road. It's still in a very deplorable state. It is always in the campaign promise of every politician. So at the end of the day, these are not new promises.
So how do you know who will do it? How do you know who will
close your doors to
it?
them? You see, bold statements, when bold statements are made, they may not yield results immediately, but they send a message. A bold statement is, the news headline will carry it. Presidential candidates of so and so got to the palace of the revered monarch and met closed doors. The news headline will fly.
On closed doors.
The news headline will fly. The next day they go to see the next monarch, they meet closed doors. It may be only two strong monarchs that may do that at the end of the day. They may meet other smaller monarchs for the love of money and greed. But at the end of the day, they sent a message. They sent a message. When you make bold statements, don't forget, they may never yield results immediately, but they send a deep message. When the deep message comes, if for instance, the strong monarchs in the Delta region had stopped politicians during the campaign promise time. Now, when this news came up, they will link it.
But you know, great man, not to say that the monarchs do not have a role to play in all of this, not to say that. But then, even as Nigerians, a lot of times during elections, you see that we are optimistic, especially when some more Nigerians are supporting a particular candidate. You see how optimistic these people are. They believe that this person is going to come in and bring the change that we want and all of that, especially during the change era, you know. But then, how do these people know that this person is not going to do all of the things that he has said he will do? It's more, don't you think it's more like saying the monarch should not support any political party during elections? Or saying that the monarch should not, maybe you should
obviously, monarchs are expected to be non-partisan. They're not supposed to be card-carrying members of any party.
That's why they accept and receive everybody.
Definitely, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that if the monarchs refuse to accept anybody at all, not one party and rejecting the next party. If the monarchs say, no, we're not accepting politicians, sit down and do the right thing. Don't come to our party. Let me tell you something about monarchy. When the monarch receives a political party, it comes like an endorsement. The people say the monarch received him. You know, there are people, let me tell you how falsehood thrives. Falsehood likes to associate itself with reality, with truth, so that it looks endorsed. That's what many people do. They know they are false. They look for true people. Even in Christian, a lot of people do that. They are for Christian fathers to kind of endorse them. And you as the followers out there,
they have
we just say, I saw him on a poster with Papa, with this. And you're like, for you to snap with Papa, in fact, he's a good man. That's how the normal Nigerian brain works.
But let's even go to the monarchs now. How much are they even doing in themselves? How much are they really doing for their own community? Monarchy
has become so traditional in Nigeria now. Sorry to say, but that is the reality of truth. Monarchy has become so traditional now. So traditional. They now begin to dance. In those days, when people talk about monarchs, in the days of my fathers and my grandfather, you fear monarchs. You fear, they had, it's just, they have a level of power concentrated in their hands. And then when you hear that a monarch came out. Monarchs don't even come out normally before. They don't come out anyhow. You don't see a monarch anyhow. You don't just walk into a monarch and say, "Ah, I was passing by at the back, so let me just come and say hello to Igwe." These days, monarchs are even the ones begging politicians to come. Now you hear about first-class tools that are politicized. You even hear about first-class tools in this country. Look at the fights with the Kano emir. You know who the right person is. A politician is foiling another candidate against the right person. So monarchy has become so politicized that it's losing its relevance. But thank God for the monarchs who are still maintaining and preserving their integrity.
Even when we say that the monarchs should stand up for this and that, look at their own actions and the things that they're expected to do in their own communities. Let's look at the next. We're going to the FCT. The Federal Capital Territory Minister, Nyesom Wike, has announced a crackdown on street begging in Abuja effective from Monday. Wike stated the enforcement agents will begin apprehending beggars to restore the city's image and address security concerns, as some beggars may be criminals in disguise. The declaration was made during the flag-off of road construction in Katampe district, where Wike emphasized the administration's commitment to making Abuja compete with major global cities. The measures will also include rehabilitating 25 schools and enhancing security across the city. Okay, let's look at this street begging. Some parts of the country, it is so much that it looks like that is where they have gathered. And if you're walking past, when I said during the intro, they get to harass people who have ever experienced these people, some of them. if you have ever experienced them, the way they hold you, the kids will just wrap their hands around your leg and you're not moving, you can't move, you can't do anything, and you cannot beat them because they are children. So let's get your thoughts on what Wike has said concerning street begging in the FCT.
What Wike has said, the FCT minister has said, is not bad, because street begging defaces a city. That's the truth about it. You go to cities around the world, people are there, they're begging though, but you don't see it the way you see it here. You don't see it the way you see it there, because I know when I was in Paris, somebody was begging. Some people came to beg me. They beg a lot in France. So
it's not a Nigerian
it's not
thing.
a Nigerian. The way it is done here, the way it happens here, you see the whole place is dirty. The whole place is smelling. The whole place is so yes, street begging defaces the city. You also need to understand is that most of these things become more prevalent because of situations. People, you realize that it's not even, before now, when you talk street begging, you may realize that you had just those children that look like Nigerian children and all, and now it's no longer just them. Street begging is now almost everybody will soon start going to the street to beg, because
we don't pray it gets to that level,
because the hardship has thrown people into begging. You see, a man can no longer feed his home. A woman cannot take care of her children, so she takes to the streets to go and beg, to go and solicit for help. So we also need to understand that yes, while what the FCT minister Nyesom Wike has said is critical and important to be taken into consideration, we also need to understand that this stems from, it's like a product. When you do 1 + 1, it equals to something. So this equals to should not be blamed. It's coming from somewhere. It's coming from either 2 + 2 or 1 + 1. So while we want to tackle street begging, we should tackle the causes. What are those things that are leading to this prevalent case of street begging? Also, you also need to realize that you must look for an alternative for them. You know, street begging is almost synonymous with street hawking in a way. People, the hawkers and all, yeah, it's true. Sometimes people have to be extra careful on the road when they are driving in traffic, because you could just be pressing your mobile device and somebody snatches it from you, and you can't even come down to chase the person. Before you know,
they're always very fast.
Yeah, they know all the in local parlance, all the ways in on that road, and they have one agent to the other. Before you know, even if you apprehend the person who took the phone has exchanged like 10 hands before you can finally get it. So yes, Mr. FCT Minister, this is a laudable one, but also realize that while you are putting this consideration, you should also consider the fact that there is a cause. There's a reason street begging and all of these hawking exercises in the major cities are a product of something. And what is that something? Economic hardship, hard times for people. And you also have to ensure that you tackle that and also look for ways to rechannel and harness these street beggars or hawkers. If not, you end up causing and raising a gang of criminals who would then eventually go down to the smaller places to obstruct the daily lives of people, because when they don't have anything to do, they'll channel their energy somewhere else.
You talked about this reducing security, improving security, because some of the street beggars, like you said, might be criminals who are disguising as beggars.
Definitely.
But like you have said, if you don't engage them in something else that is meaningful and productive to the society, they might just get into, like, it might increase the crime that you're trying to reduce.
You know, people say that people usually say that the thin line between love and hate. That's the way it is. It's just a thin line. If you do not handle it properly, what you are fighting will become what you created. So that's it.
But how can you really engage these people?
If you look at it, basically, like I said, hardship. This is the primary problem of many people who are begging. They have hard time feeding. They have hard time.
Let me come in there now. Remember, I saw a video on social media recently of a woman who was begging with some children. You know, the way they'll just put their children on the floor and they're begging. They're babies. And then someone complained about giving her money set up a business and all of that, and then came back after a while, saw this woman in the same spot begging. So how do you call that hardship now? You know, some Nigerians have said this thing is spiritual, it's more than physical. Some people have landed it. Some people have said it that way.
You will then agree with me that when I always speak in your studio, there's almost no time I speak I don't talk about orientation and mindset. Orientation and mindset is one of the biggest problems for Nigerians, not just politicians now, Nigerians generally. There's a wide gap because first, why should you give birth to so many children when you cannot take care of them? You've given birth to 1, 2, 3, and you can see that it's a hard time fending for these 3. Why go to give birth to more? People should be able to give birth to the number of children that they can cater for.
So we should have that as a law like some other countries.
If it has to come up as a law, then it should start coming up as a law.
How would that be viable here? This place where, in this country where we see children as achievements.
That's the problem. Mentality issues. Some people give birth to children in a massive quantity. Let me use that word, that expression. Because they feel that some will not be reasonable. Oh, let's say
you're in Nigeria. You live here.
Make I burn some now, so that in case this one useless,
you live here.
That one not go useless. So
do you know? I heard someone saying it recently. In case, it's like lottery.
It's gamble.
Oh, do you understand how people
they give birth as gamble? They say let me give birth to 10. If 4 misbehave, 6 can be good. It's like a hen laying eggs.
You understand?
So if you have bad eggs,
having different eggs.
Yeah, Nigerians do funny things, and orientation is very important. Orientation is really very important, and of course, one other way that the people can be harnessed, you can harness them in agriculture. You can create big farms, send them to the farms, pay them. When you pay them from the farms, they get daily proceeds from the farm. They can also work there. That's a way of engaging them as well. So, okay, all the street beggars on this street corner come. We are creating a poultry here. Their work is going to be to cater here. Your work is going to be to till
instead of harassing people on the road.
Exactly. So there are many innovations that can be brought up to harness the energy of these street beggars and hawkers as well. So it's something that the FCT minister can consider.
Then the orientation you talked about is very important.
Orientation,
these people, some of them do not look like they're not going to go back to the streets. Because it looks like, I don't know if there's just something there for them. They just want to always go back to the streets, even when you try to like take them out of the streets. And then the talks about some people coming in from other countries, you know, to come into Nigeria to start this begging of a thing. Do we send them back, or do we just engage them like you have said?
Our border security is quite porous, because you don't go to other countries just the way you come to Nigeria. At the end of the day, it's sad. So, of course, if possible, you can send them back. Because the truth be told, I know that every country is meant to open their arms to immigrants coming in, those seeking asylum and all of those things, and those who are coming in based on all of this immigration hardship and all. Some people are also facing hardship in their countries, and they're coming to this place. They see Nigeria as a big brother. So they also think they can find their feet here. So obviously, what you can do, the government is in the best decision, is in the best place to make the decision of whether to send them back or engage everybody to live communally as one big country. Also, on the issue of orientation, you realize that some of them make more money on the streets than they can ever make working. It will be amazing that you will hear that some of them make up to 30K
daily,
50K daily.
You see those ones that sit under the bridge? They just sit on that bridge and then they send their kids to go beg. So these children beg, bring the money to the... You see the father, he's just sitting down and gisting with it. So they're not doing anything.
It's a complete organization. They have managing director.
Do you understand? So that's why even if you engage them, they don't want to work. They just go back.
They're making more money. When you earn 30,000 a day and then you are going to do that for the next 30 days.
Even that's you with your collar, your white collar, going to work every morning. Yeah. They're earning more than some people.
$900K for a month, you know. It's a mindset thing and policy thing as well. If policies are put in place that this should stop, it will stop, definitely. Nigerians like force. That's one thing I've noticed. Nigerians like force. If you go to the market, they built a market for them, they will leave the market and sell on the road. Then when the task force comes and harasses them, you begin to hear them cry foul. Oh, you don't get mama for house. Why can't you pity old women? Why can't you pity? But they built a market for you. They said, stay in the market and sell. People who want to buy will come there and patronize you. But instead, they sell on the road. They even take the pedestrian walk. They cross over the pedestrian walk and take half of the road. And the motorists have to meander their way through the remaining part of the road.
But you know that sometimes when these things are addressed, when you're carrying out the penalty or these measures against these people, you also need to calm down and find out what the problem is. Because, like you said, when the task force comes, they run in sometimes. But when the task force comes again, you find them on the road again. So if this primary cause is not addressed, these people will keep doing the wrong things. So that's where what you said about handling the case of hardship, putting measures, if you don't do that, these people might want to come back to the street. But so we don't dwell so much on this story, let's look at what the presidency has said. President Bola Tinubu announced that Nigerian motorists can now purchase petrol for 1,000 naira per litre, while the alternative, a standard cubic meter of compressed natural gas (CNG), is available for 200 naira. This statement came during a meeting with executives from the Nigerian Independent Petroleum Company Limited. Company, that's NIPCO, led by Director Ramesh Kasangria at the State House in Abuja. And Tinubu got to emphasize the benefits of transitioning to CNG, highlighting it as a cleaner and a more affordable fuel option that could reduce fuel costs at this time for consumers, and will also get to lessen the nation's carbon footprints. And he got to commend the NIPCO's support for the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative and all of that. But let's go back to the president's statement about, fuel is now 1,000 naira per litre, but for CNG it's 200 naira. So drivers, you decide which one you want. But then you're a driver and you drive in Nigeria. Fuel being 1,000 naira, is it something that should be celebrated?
It shouldn't be at all. You know, I looked at this news, and the moment I got this news headline, I sent it to one of my friends. Because my friend told me that this is just on a lighter mode, not officially. My friend told me that it is possible that somewhere in the presidency, somebody has a personal interest in the CNG thing and would float it, and that the fuel price is going to keep increasing until Nigerians will eventually transit to the use of CNG. But that is good news.
What is good news?
If the federal government talks about the use of CNG, that's the compressed natural gas, in place of petrol, it's good news, because two things. It is going to aid the fight against climate change. It is in compliance with the Sustainable Development Goals. It means that Nigeria is probably looking at a fuel-less society in the near 10 years or 2 decades, 20 years. And if it is something we feel we can do, then we should start doing it now. If you want people to transition to the use of compressed natural gas, then you need to ensure that there are provisions for people to get their cars converted from the petrol system to the CNG.
Yes, they have been calling for Nigerians to come convert the vehicles.
That is something that, if we want to achieve, is laudable, is achievable, and it is good, because it will not only fight the whole issue of climate change, it will reduce this hydrocarbon pollution and all of these things. It will do a lot of good for Nigerians. It will also go ahead to, of course, make you purchase CNG at a cheaper rate. I do hope that it's not a trap. Nigeria has taught me to be very, you have to be very ready for anything.
They have trust issues.
Nigeria has made a lot of Nigerians to have trust issues because when you now eventually transition into the use of CNG, then the next thing, boom, CNG price will go to a price that you can't imagine.
Well, talking about the federal government probably being involved in the increase in the fuel price, remember that the FG has told us that they have nothing to do with the increase in fuel price. And it is not in their place to increase or reduce. According to them, it is based on the market forces.
The man who is caught in a crime, even those who are caught red-handed do not accept they committed a crime. They still tell you that they are entitled to trial.
Even when you're listening to your voice notes,
yeah, they tell you that
it's doctor, it's not your voice.
It's not my voice. And they still have to go to the extent of saying, I must be tried. After all, the Nigerian system says anybody who must be condemned must first go through trial. So I have a right to trial, a trial process that they can also influence and jeopardize. So at the end of the day, yes, it is very correct. There are market forces that determine the price of this and that, not the federal government. But these market forces are influenced. These market forces are influenced. When they say NNPC, who put the NNPC chairman there? Somebody put him there. Somebody can call him on the phone and influence him. So obviously, who made the decision? Oh, it was Mr. NNPC chairman that said it during his announcement. CBN chairman made the announcement of increments in this, but somebody influenced that process. So of course, well, are we going to deceive ourselves?
And then if we look at what the Labour Party chairman said earlier concerning his conversation with the president during the whole minimum wage talks, then when he said the president invited them in, and during the conversation the president asked them, since you're asking for 650,000 naira and then it reduced to 250, since you're asking for 250,000 naira for minimum wage, should we increase the fuel price and pay you 250,000 naira?
So you heard that very clear. Should we increase the fuel price?
That was the question. According to him, according to the Labour Party, not the Labour Party chairman. Now, Labour chairman.
Labour chairman.
I don't know why I keep mixing that up. According to the Labour chairman, where he said that. Now you wonder if the president asks that question, and then the FG comes out to say, "Oh, we're not the ones who get to increase fuel price," or not. It's contradicting.
It simply states that the FG has the capacity to influence. The FG is the FG. The final decision making for the country happens with the FG. So the FG influences things. They may not directly be in charge of a process, but they influence the process.
All right. So back to the story, talking about the petrol being 1,000 naira now, and then CNG at 200 naira. We'll get to find out how this gets to play out, and also get to find out which of the states petrol is being sold for 1,000 naira. Because last I checked, I think I asked you that yesterday, how much you got fuel, and you said 1,300.
They're selling for 1,000. So I'm wondering where the 1,000 naira is coming.
But you know it's different. The prices are different in different states.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, even if the FG is able to influence 1,000 naira for the sale of petrol, it will only end up with the NNPC fuel stations. It will not cascade down to all the other.
How do you see Nigerians embracing the CNG initiative?
New ideas may always struggle to kickstart, but if it is laudable, if it is good for the people, then no matter how we struggle, we'll get used to it. You know, we struggled, we raised fuel from, fuel was 65 naira. It went to 85 naira. We shouted, we still coped. Fuel went to 100 and something naira. It was 97 naira. It went to 100 and something naira. It is now at 1,400, 500 in some places, in some states. Nigerians are still going to cope at the end of the day. So if you bring in CNG, people may fight it from the beginning, but it's still going to work out if the government is ready to implement the use of CNG. So I feel, though it may take some time, but Nigerians will get used to it.
People are already converting their vehicles to CNG.
Exactly, that's what the government is meant to do.
Doing that.
Not to have one designated spot. In every state, there should be at least 10 to 20 places where you can go convert your car, and this should be free of charge. It's a transitioning process. The government is to make it free of charge. You go there, convert your car to CNG, and ensure that you have this available to your use. So I think it's something that can work out if we really want to make it work out, because I know that this is going to cut, it's going to cut a lot of businesses. You know, people that make money from this whole fuel news, they'll fight. People that make money from the sales of generator and all of these things, the use of fuel goes around to just not just cars, but generator, to this, to that, they'll fight. But if it is what should be done, then go ahead. I used to tell school owners when I meet with them, parents do not know the best for their children. That's why they sent them to school. The school is expected to know what the children needs at a particular stage of life. And so the parents are relying on you to give their children what they need. So the government has been put into power because we feel that all of us cannot sit in the same house shouting on what should be implemented. Because if you keep 10,000 persons in one room, you will have 10,000 different opinions. And before you start getting to harness one opinion, you will spend 10 years perhaps trying to get one opinion. So we selected a few persons and said, go represent us. We trust you to represent our best interests, and that's why we're sending you there. So the government should look at themselves as messengers of the people who are supposed to represent the best interests of the people. If you feel the CNG is the best, in the best interest of Nigerians, then by all means, push it.
All right, thank you so much, great man, for your thoughts on that one. Let's take a short time out, and when we return, the conversation will continue. We have other stories for you. Please don't go anywhere.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all your bits on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
The people of Maiduguri need your help. A catastrophic flood has engulfed the city, leaving over 1 million residents stranded and fighting for survival. Entire communities are submerged, with people trapped inside homes and on rooftops cut off from food, clean drinking water and essential supplies. Health experts are warning of a potential outbreak of deadly diseases, and medical facilities are out of commission. The situation is dire. Helicopters, boats and high-riding trucks capable of navigating the treacherous, waterlogged areas are urgently required to reach the countless men, women and children still awaiting rescue. The Nigerian media is issuing a desperate plea to the government, humanitarian organizations, international actors and citizens across the nation. Step in now, before it's too late. For more information on how you can help, contact Professor Usman A. Tar, the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Borno State, on 0809-233-3955. Every second counts.
This is powered by Atlantic Television Network.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Let's move to our next story. The federal government has banned the export of liquefied petroleum gas produced in Nigeria as prices continue to rise sharply. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, that's for gas now, Ekpo, has announced the ban effective November 1, 2024, directing LPG producers to stop exports or import equivalent volumes at reflective prices. The government will also implement a domestic pricing framework within 90 days indexed to local production cost. Additionally, a long-term plan to develop LPG infrastructure over the next year aims to stabilize prices and improve supply, ensuring affordability for Nigerians. This is not the first time we're hearing a story like this. In fact, if you check, you find out that months before now, we heard this last year, same talks about stopping exports so that we can have more, and then so that the price can come down. But then we don't know how effective that has been over time.
You know, it's still amazing to me that we're exporting what we do not have in sufficiency, because I remember that a news headline came up, I think that was some weeks ago, about the minister saying in a few years' time there may be shortage of gas for Nigerians' usage. What we say there is a shortage of in a few years' time, we are still sending it out. We are still sending it out when we are saying that our people may not even have sufficient gas in the next 10 years, in a decade from now, and we still see people sending it out. How greedy can people be? How greedy, how self-centered can people be? Just for your own interest, because you make the money out of it, you want to do it at the detriment of the whole nation. Because at the end of the day, when we have an announcement from the minister is like the apex representation of a particular ministry. Like the president in that place, that's the eye of the president there. And the eye of the presidency in the ministry says, based on insider report, based on technical report, we have discovered and concluded that if we go the way we are going, in the next 10 years, we will no longer have gas for use.
Is it not surprising that we're even importing gas? Is that not surprising enough?
Like they said we should look forward to them installing structures for the production of liquefied natural gas. So let's see. They want to install more facilities.
Yes, the one, because we already are producing that.
See.
That's why we're able to export.
Let's see.
But then the big question is, how come we're even importing? It's for like, let's even look at it now. You're importing, you're exporting, the same thing. I'm trying to understand that. So you're producing something, you're importing it, the same thing you're producing, and you're still exporting it. that is something that should really be looked into. Some of the things that we do in Nigeria are quite funny, especially when we look at our natural resources that we have. How we are harnessing it, how we're able to use it, how we're utilizing it is just something that should be looked into and improved upon, seriously. But then, how do you think that we can really reduce the price? I know you've talked about them referring to what they said about the increasing production and all of that. But like I said, this is not the first time we're talking about quitting export of the LPG. We've been talking about it ever since. Go check it. You see different months where this statement, this same news, exactly the same headline was, published. And then we're asking, if we tried it before, we stopped exports for as long as we did, and yet the price keeps increasing, and again we stop export for as long as we did, price keeps increasing, don't you think we should start looking at other ways in which we can reduce the price of cooking gas? Like Phil, when the increase started, it looked like a joke. But what we buy now, almost every household is affected by this.
Of course, everybody is going to be affected.
So what other means do you think we should start looking at to actually reduce the price like it looks like is the goal?
Two things I would say. Number one, expansion. Number two, policies. Policies must be put in place and must be driven down to execution stage and properly executed. Because when you say we stopped exporting, how did you know they stopped exporting? Somebody said we stopped paying fuel subsidy, and somebody says we are still paying fuel subsidy.
After a while.
So how do you know that the news announcement was what happened down there? So at the end of the day, we just come out, we're making... we're making Nigeria...
If we stop export, sorry to cut you, if we stop export, is that not going to increase the price instead of reduce the price like we've been promised? And we don't have enough. That's why we are importing, right? And then we're exporting. That is the money that's coming in, supposed to be reinvested in that particular sector.
Supposed to be. I like the word supposed to be. You know, exporting means that we are sending it out. And we are sending out what we do not have enough of. So when you are sending the little we have out, it means that there is going to be scarcity. Those who have that little that is remaining will increase the price. They will hoard it and increase the price. That is why the price would keep increasing. So it means that even though declarations for stop and ban on exportation was made, they never stopped. Because if they stopped, then we would have the one that we have available to our people. And when, one thing that makes things expensive is scarcity. Whenever a thing becomes scarce, it becomes expensive. Somebody who has possession of it will sell it at any price, and people will buy it at any price because they need it. So it means that we never stopped exporting even after declarations were made. And that's what I'm saying. The government is not realizing that we are damaging the mind of Nigerians, getting to the extent where Nigerians will no longer believe in Nigeria. Nigerians will no longer believe in the government. Nigerians will no longer believe in whatever is said. Secondly, when this continues to deepen, we would end up having a system that will always give us a bad public image and global image out there. Because if you tell us that export is banned, export should be banned. If export is banned, then it therefore means that there should be a bit of sufficiency over here, because when you are not giving it out, it's stored back home. If it is stored back home, then we should have sufficient enough. And if we have sufficient enough, it shouldn't be scarce. If it is not scarce, it shouldn't be expensive.
Okay. We are looking forward to that time when what we produce here will not be expensive here. We're looking forward to it. But let's look at the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. He has attributed Nigeria's enduring challenges to the principle of regionalism, which he believes has perpetrated division since the country gained independence in 1960. He made this assertion during a visit from the League of Northern Democrats led by former Kano State Governor Ibrahim Shekaro at his residence in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Obasanjo argued that the emphasis on regional identity undermines national unity, suggesting that the focus should be on what leaders bring to the table in terms of development and governance rather than their regional origin. He expressed discomfort with regional terminologies like North, East, West as they evoke division rather than national cohesion. The former president advised the visiting group to adopt a national identity such as National League of Democrats to foster inclusivity. But let's go back to his previous statement about regionalism. Instead of looking at where this person is coming from, actually look at his capacity. Would you agree that regionalism has really been one of the major causes of the problems we have in Nigeria, like his statement?
I agree with the president, or the former president, because we tend to give people political offices based on where they come from, rather than what they bring to the table. And that's it. That's our problem. Even if the man is a Northerner, what will make the country work, then let's get him on board. I think we said something like this earlier about the Japanese people, how they bring in the smart people and the other foolish people will follow. Let's consider ourselves foolish. Let's put the smart man there. Ability to put, you know, I used to tell people, the quality of a man can also be seen in the quality of his questions. Ability to make right decisions shows the quality of person you are. Ability to make the right decision. So if the country decides rightly, then it means that we're ready for something good. So I agree with Mr. President totally that, look, regionalism has spoiled a lot. Because let's come to the facts. Nigeria is a very diverse country. 523 languages spoken officially. When is everybody going to get to the point of proper representation, if you want to come to the details? When will the Kanuri man feel represented? When will the Ogoni man feel represented? When will this? When will that? So at the end of the day, you realize that Nigeria is an originally diverse nation. And that's why we always use the word unity in diversity when we talk about Nigeria, because as diverse as we are, we hold same resilience. As diverse as we are still the same black skin. So at the end of the day, Nigerians should look beyond regionalism.
But don't you think this is going to cause more marginalization?
In a way, it may cause more marginalization.
And is that not division already?
I agree with you. But the truth be told, if the man there is making it work, what is the row about?
So are you saying that in this other region, they don't have someone who is smart enough who can make it work?
You see, somebody would likely say the Nigerian problem comes from a lot of places. Our constitution, our this, our that, our that. Let me tell you, while many people feel underrepresented is because of the lack of decentralization. If the president is from this region, the vice president is from this region, the senate president is from this region, the chief judge is from this region, the this is from this region, people get a sense of representation. Secondly, if parastatals are decentralized across the country, people will also get a sense of representation. Everything is in Abuja. It's a problem for me. Everything is in Abuja. Everything is, if it's not in Abuja, it's in Lagos. It's a problem, a big problem for me. Because I feel, why can't some things be in Enugu? Why can't some things be in Anambra? Why can't some things be in Port Harcourt? You see the point? Even as much as NNPC headquarters, we're fighting for it to come down to where the oil is drilled. But it is in Abuja. It's in Abuja. The headquarters for this, for that, all of these headquarters are out there in Abuja, in Lagos. Meanwhile, where these things happen, so when you want to make people feel, when you want to make people feel representation, it goes beyond who is president. It goes beyond who is president.
But that is major.
I agree. But decisions can be reached. Decisions can be reached. If we want to come into this and that, it will take us a long drive, because Nigerians will never feel maximally and optimally represented.
But imagine if they would never feel optimally represented, like you have said. Imagine a situation where they're not even represented, or we don't have this regionalism that we're talking about, and they feel completely marginalized, and that would be a lot of regions feeling that way. Look at some of the regions that feel marginalized. Look at the agitations that they look at, the insecurity it is already causing.
What is the issue of Nigeria? Is it who is president or what the president does? Let me tell you something. Why is the person from the Niger Delta agitating? Why did we have the Niger Delta agitators in the name of militants? Because the oil was coming from us and we were not getting anything back. We laid the golden egg and we're not taken care of. We don't see the impact of the golden egg. So whether it is an Igbo man, a Yoruba man, an Hausa man, a thief man, or the Kanuri man, an Ogoni man, whatever, whoever was president did not matter. What mattered is, Mr. President, we produce, we gain. So imagine if the country is working. Would you even remember who the president is? You will not even remember which town he comes from. What Nigerians want is a Nigeria that works. If the Igbo man will make Nigeria work, we vote him in, let him make Nigeria work. After 10 years, not that the Igbo side is working, the Hausa side is not working. Nigeria is working holistically. When Nigeria works holistically, nobody will remember the tribe of Mr. President. What we want is a working Nigeria. That is what we want.
All right, it doesn't matter where the person is from. Okay, thank you so much, great man, for your thoughts on this one. At this point, we need to wrap things up. We appreciate you for coming. You flew the traffic, like you said. All right, let's wrap things up here. We must appreciate you for being part of this conversation. Thank you. We'll do this again tomorrow at the same time, at same station, Atlantic Television Network. Remember to stay connected with us on all of our ATN socials: Facebook, YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram, TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, and X, Atlantic TV Net. You can watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Remember always that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you once again for watching. I am Enidoye Jackson. Coming up next is Open Conversation. Stay with us on ATN.